the last topic is about how much do rings factor in the greatness of an all-time
Correct.
great, right? Essentially,
Correct.
Right? You know, we're in a basketball generation, and I would say that that's not necessarily basketball sports generation where titles matter, and titles matter a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think the reason why is just because we're a culture that I think just gravitates towards winners, and these winners they when they're on the biggest stage and they are able to perform and achieve the utmost greatest pinnacle of the sport and actually win a championship, that matters, man. That matters.
Yep.
And so but I would say the older players, because I know we had talked about this topic before, but I'm just going to preempt it a little bit. But Bill Russell has 11, right?
He does have 11,
and he's not even talked about, right? So,
Yep.
but and I think it's just because a lot of it is because back then when Bill Russell was playing, there wasn't as many teams as there are now, and so the pool of players for these champions to compete against were a lot less back when Bill Russell
but
was
let
playing
me
versus now.
you mentioned that, and I want to counter that for a minute.
Sure.
Yes, you're right, there were less teams, but let's for instance, as an example, there's what, 30 teams in the league right now, right? Is it 30?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Imagine if we dropped it to 20, right?
Yep.
Imagine how much more talented each individual team would be.
Yeah, way more now. But now we're talking about.
But
now.
What I'm saying
you can't
is,
say the same thing back then, though.
Well, there's a variety. There's political reasons we can't say it. But what I'm saying is, the people that played in the league at that time, for whoever was playing, were the creme de la creme. So
Yeah.
I have a counter a little bit that they had less teams, but they also had less watering down. They had more players that were probably more competitive, and it was probably there's some offset there. It's not just that you had less teams and they all sucked. They were solid teams.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. But I think that championships definitely matter towards a player's legacy. Now,
Yes.
it's only when the stats are equivalent, right? Like we know the poster boy for this argument is Charles Barkley. Charles
Yep.
Barkley never won a championship in his life, and he always gets so much crap about it from Shaq
Yep.
about it, on TNT, right? He always just that throws it in his face, and Charles Barkley takes it. He had his opportunity. He could have won one, but he just never got over the hump. But that guy was a dominant freaking player, man. He was a dominant. A lot of people forget how good that guy was. And it's interesting because we had that pyramid of players last week that we were talking about, the highly skilled pyramid.
Yep.
Man, he wasn't even on that list. And that guy was freaking skilled in a lot of ways.
He was.
So, yeah, we forgot about how good Charles Barkley is, but he is definitely the poster boy for somebody who is pretty much ignored and being considered one of the greats because he doesn't have any rings.
Correct.
And but that's kind of supports my point, that we're right now in a times where championships really carry a lot of weight. And so that's that, and I made the analogy in the test show, but if you look at like changing sports, right? You look at, Steve Young only had one championship ring. You have Eli Manning, who has 2 championship rings. Who's the better player?
Yep. Well,
Steve Young, right?
Yeah.
Steve Young is the better
Steve
player.
Young. Oh, sorry, Steve Young. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve Young's better than Eli Manning.
Yep.
Peyton Manning's better than Steve Young.
Yeah.
My point is,
that's why I thought I heard you said Eli, but I heard Peyton.
When you heard Manning, you're like Archie Manning.
No, Archie didn't win any.
No, but Eli Manning, and my whole point is, even though we're in a culture of championships, it's not the all the be all to support who's the better player, because you got to talk about Robert Horry. Robert Horry, what, he has 7 rings?
Robert Horry has 7.
He's not even considered in any of these conversations just because he benefited from being on teams that were really, really good, and he just happened to be there to get the rings. Not that he wasn't bad; it's no slight on him. It's just that he wasn't the main guy on that team, and we're talking about main guys on the team.
Correct.
When we talk about your point about does rings factor into players' greatness, especially all-time greatness, right?
But then you look at someone like Kareem, who has 6, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he gets ignored. Like, to me, he gets ignored. He's never discussed as potentially the top 3. And you look at someone, speaking of skill and championships, Will Chamberlain. He has 2 championships, and 100-point game, average 50 rebounds a game. I mean, again, maybe this is an era where the competition was not as stiff as it was later, but that dude was a monster in terms of statistics. And he's never even discussed. You could have, I've seen top 10 lists where he's like close to the bottom, if not even in it.
Yeah, no, I know, man, but I think because Kareem, he's an interesting he's an interesting case with respect to these arguments about the greatest of all time, because I think he definitely deserves to be in that conversation as the greatest of all time. It's always MJ versus LeBron. That's always the argument. And
Yep.
especially now that LeBron took over Kareem's scoring title, that's even louder right now. It's MJ and LeBron. And a lot of it has to do with just because these guys, they have the ball in their hands. They can do stuff, without having somebody else passing the ball. Kareem wasn't that player. The only way Kareem could do what he does is, when he gets the ball to get his iconic skyhook, and once he got that ball down low, man, it was unstoppable. Nobody could guard it, right?
Yep.
But then the only other way he could score is if he gets a putback, from an offensive rebound, right? He can't dribble the ball and create his own shot. I mean, not on his own. That's where LeBron and Jordan. That's why they're looked at that in that regard, is because they're able to handle the ball and not wait for somebody to give them the ball, whereas Kareem does. But for as far as accolades, I mean, Kareem's right there with Jordan.
So let me just playing devil's advocate here, right? Kobe has 5 rings, was a better defensive player than LeBron. Why is Kobe never argued to be greater than LeBron?
I think it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Interesting, because Kobe, in my opinion, it was a crime that he didn't win more than one MVP. He should have won way more than one MVP. But I think that he just wasn't very well liked when he was in the league. He didn't have a very good reputation with the press. He just was kind of a salty guy.
Similar to Kareem.
Similar to Kareem. Kareem's a very salty guy.
Yeah.
But LeBron, I want to say LeBron is the most, warmest personality, like a Steph Curry. Steph Curry is a very warm personality. I mean, that's where I think, you're in your last argument, the LeBron versus the Curry era. I think Curry's way more endearing than LeBron is. LeBron is just, he's there because he's so freaking good, and been in the league for so long, and is just a specimen and never really sustained a significant injury, and that's the reason why he's been able to attain these accolades, from scoring titles to assists, whatever. All these things that he's known for is because he's had the benefit of health. The guy's a specimen, right? But we're talking about endearing personalities. Kobe wasn't that, man. He wasn't that at all. He
was uber competitive
later in his career. What was that?
He was uber competitive, expected a lot of his teammates would shut him out if they didn't play up to his standards. No, I agree. Yeah. He took his craft very, very seriously.
Yep. And we all know he mimicked Jordan. We all know he mimicked Jordan. I mean, Jordan know he mimicked him, right? It was a known thing. And he even tried to talk like Jordan. He talked exactly like Jordan, the same cadence, the same rhythm. That's who we looked up to. And hey, that was the right guy to look up to, because look at his career. Kobe is an all-time great, but he's not regarded as in the same conversation as LeBron.
But do you think it's just purely because of his personality?
I think that factors in a little bit, honestly, man. I mean,
but what is LeBron better at?
Has a lot of influence
than Kobe
from a game standpoint.
Just from a career.
Passing, scoring, Kobe. The one part that Kobe's way better than LeBron at, and it's because of the desire I think that he has. He has more of that edge. Is defense. That's where Kobe, I think, is way better than LeBron. Now LeBron could be that guy, but he was like that more early in his career, because defense takes a lot of energy, man. It does.
Yeah.
To be a really
Yeah.
good defensive player, to be a really good two-way player, you have to be in tremendous shape, man, because it takes up a lot of energy to react to what's going on the offensive side. It just does, man. When I was playing, man, defense was a pain in the ass. I could play it, but man, it gets tiring, man. I way preferred doing the offense more, and that's where Russell Westbrook was one of these guys. When he was out in college, he was more known as a defensive player, but
Yep.
when he came in the NBA, man, he became he flip-flop, man. He went right to offense and forgot about defense. But he had it in his DNA to be a defensive, but it just takes a lot of energy, man.
No, I mean, historically,
right?
you look at, Draymond Green, focuses all on his energy on defense and is very minimal offensive player. Dennis Rodman, Dennis Rodman was historically a very good defensive player, then decided to focus primarily on rebounding, but offensively was minimal. I mean, a lot of these guys that are defense heavy and stick with defense throughout their career, their offensive numbers are not as good, with exceptions like Kawhi. Kawhi was a guy that played a lot of defense, but has become a very, very, very good offensive player. But no, I hear you. But I guess that's my counter, though. I mean, I would say that being great at defense can offset some of those things in assist numbers, in potentially scoring numbers. I mean, it's such a matrix, and that's why when I look at Jordan, as much as I kind of raise my flag for Kareem, Jordan was Defensive Player of the Year. He was MVP of the year. I mean, he did everything. He could, he wasn't a fantastic shooter early in his career and became a much better shooter. He transitioned from being attacking the rim to playing perimeter. He extended his career. He did everything he needed to do as a player. And so when I look at him, that's where I see his greatness, right? He evolved, he changed, he did things differently. He put effort on defense. He stayed with one team, for the most part.
Yeah.
And so when I look at LeBron, there's just a lot of things that are exceptions to that. LeBron, to some extent, went championship shopping, early in his career. He was trying to put teams together. LeBron, I probably get everyone in an uproar, but he likes to flop all the time. He doesn't want to play defense. You touch him and he falls over as though he got hit by a tornado. And you see it and you're like, come on, LeBron, you're better than this.
And he's always arguing for calls,
Yeah.
man. Always, man. He's always doing this, always like this to the refs, man. It's like, he's just so annoying sometimes, man.
Correct.
But he's so freaking good, though. He's so freaking good.
No, he is good.
Freaking good.
He is good, but there's a combination of good and his size.
He's a huge guy. Yeah,
he's a large human being.
Yeah,
even in the NBA world. Yeah,
absolutely, man. Dude, right. It's a good topic, man.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.